I wasn't expecting this many people. How many of you out there are wearing dentures? About a month ago, my brother, who was married in Richard Table to Beverly wounded, he passed away, so we laid him to rest in Fort Meade, where he chose to lie. And on the way back, a lot of construction going on by Fairview and Faith, that area. You know, after a while, your dentures wear out, your adhesive. So I rolled them up in paper towels and I put them in a little coffee cup holder. Told my grandkids, I said, whatever you do, I said, don't forget my teeth. While I'm reminded to watch my teeth. Fell asleep. We got back to the house. I was tired, went to sleep. And my other grandchildren, doing a favor for Grandpa, call me Lala, but so we had trash bags open all over the yard. Our neighbors are probably wondering what we were doing. So I tried to get some teeth in here. $2,700 down on each plate, upper and bottom, before they start processing. So take care of your teeth. So I said I was a little leery about coming, but Mike asked me to come in every year, and every time he's asked me, I've decided to come and help out. So I'll do my best on my T's, S's, and I'll try not to say to either one but bother me. I'm very happy to be able to be here, and I welcome all of you, because you know, things that were said last night, and some of you missed it, hit down home, made me laugh, filled my heart with so many things that I expect to see for the future, especially our young ones. One of my friends' daughter approached me and spoke to me in her language, and I was really flabbergasted to know that these young people are picking up the language. Potato, potato, and wasteno, huh? We have here a presentation today to kind of give you guys an idea of the time and effort it took and how it began. I went to school in California to become an engineer, electrical engineer. And when I came back to the reservation, there was a powwow going on in Bismarck called United Tribes. And, you know, at that time you could wear a tank top. So I was showing off my physique. Now I had 6 packs. Oh no, it looks like I'm carrying a keg around. But I listened to some songs that were being sung by Porcupine Singers, flag song, Kawapa Olam. And I noticed that everybody stood up, and different tribes from all over Canada, United States, probably Europeans too. And so when it was over, I thought to myself, what are they saying? You know, we all stand up and recognize it as being a flag song. So Tusweca en me inaj wicha mohe ta chakabe e olong ahia ke amaitavna sloash eloy. He said tokash inu hatas takom in esloink. So I went over to his grandpa and said, olong he etakabe tak chakabe. And I might takoja, he said, sloash nilo. And I thought to myself, gee, I wonder what and how this can change. Well, first of all, you have to learn how to sing, huh? So I turned to 49 songs. Half all the time. I took out, you opened a big bonfire down at Haskell. Everybody going around. I went over there, she had a waist about like this. One dawn came out one day, Andrew. So I started singing songs that made me happy and having a good time, because with all the different workshops going on all over the place, you know, it was an appropriate thing to do as a young person, to participate at those conferences after it's all over. They'd gather someplace and have a 49. I was very proud of myself. And somehow my auntie, my Tony, heard about it. She said, my son, she said, I heard you sing now. Yeah, she said, well, let me hear you sing. You know? So I said, I'm dreaming of a white woman. No, she said, oh, Lord, she said, I can't hear. So the only thing I knew was Eat of Course song. Yeah, somebody know that one, isn't it? I've been out drinking all night long. Eat of Course. I was really getting into it. Home on that. We need Tusweca, she said. Our people have powerful and beautiful songs. He said, why would you want to learn to sing those songs? Put my head down, I said, well, that's a start, I guess. And so that encouraged me. She said, there are a lot of beautiful songs, she said. And they brought those across the river along with whiskey. She said, you don't need to go that way. She said, remember, be a human being like we're supposed to be. And so that name stuck with me for a long time. I had a drum group called Ikchewi Chasha. I didn't allow drinking on there. I didn't allow smoking on there. And I didn't know anybody bad words using on the drum. I was responsible. It took me around the world. When I went to Italy, beautiful, beautiful women. Holy smokers. Hanging on us, like a horse's long tail. Hey, mucho bella señorita. Well, over there, when they go like this, it means come here. Tiospaye, so it sounds, shoot, get away. I approached it in a way that, to me, was to be able to hang around people that sing. So my Uncle Bill Redfish, who I attribute so much of my life to when it comes to influencing what I've become, and he said, Johan oyate, wachine apihantas, taya ichumo. He said, what tohato? He said, you're going to get old. He said, you're not going to be able to sing anymore. So you can look back at your life and say, I've always did my best. And I can stand here and look back and say, I've always done my best. I'm sober now for 20 years now. I don't even remember when I first quit, but I was an alcoholic. I knew I was in trouble. I had a growth behind my head, and I noticed that it was getting bigger and bigger. My father died from an aneurysm. I worried about it. Went to see the doctor. He looked at my scalp and he said, you're going to be all right, Mr. Bullhead. He said, it's a woodchuck. That's how I knew I was in trouble. So again, I said, well, I have to try and do whatever I can. But the first place I had to do was sober up. And also quit smoking, to have a breath, to be able to sing, and get away from all those bad influences. So the songs have taken me a long ways, especially when it came to smoking. Gee, that's a tough one. But I did it because I learned that through college classes that in our area, from what we know and what we talked about, that Hidatsas raised tobacco and they only had one person who handled the tobacco, and it was never meant for pleasure. I learned that immediately. So I use it, tobacco in our ceremonies, I use it for offerings, and I don't use it for pleasure anymore. And believe me, it was difficult, because I turned from inhaling it to putting behind in my mouth, skull bandits. One wasn't good enough, so I had 4 in my mouth. That wasn't good enough, then I turned to skull. Somebody said, I need some cans from skull to make a ginger dress outfit, so I went for it. 300 and some cans. And I developed a white growth underneath my lower lip. Went to the doctor and he said, if that don't go away, he said, we're going to have to cut it out. And if any of you have seen the poster where they show this young man and they cut his whole lower mouth out because of cancer. And so when I saw that, I backed up and I said, no more, no more. And so I put that in my mind and kept on moving. And so opak dying, I've had to go through many of that. Losing a son, I had to go through handling tobacco, and it still goes on today. Mike brought me tobacco last night, and I felt very good about that. So these things are really, really important when it comes down to making that commitment as a singer or a person that does songs. I want to introduce my friends here. One is my adopted brother, and finally he listened to me. He's quietly sitting. His name is Tommy Christian from Fort Peck, Honkawai. And then Elijah Hopkins, the genius in our group. Okay, we're just, him and I are on a podcast, and I'd like a lot of you to check it out. It's called Buffalo Chasers. It comes on Thursday, 3 o'clock Mountain Time. And I think we've been on there, 73 times now? 80 times we've been on there. And we discuss many different aspects, and some of this I'll share with you. Can you see it? The technology part is a very, very intricate part, and I'm glad he said what he said last night. Our speaker about using technology. You're able to communicate, you're able to reach each other no matter where you're at. I have a friend that from Fort Berthold, he runs a tobacco shop. Don't smoke, but he runs a tobacco shop, and he's done very well. I called him one night and I said, I'd like to come and visit you for a bit. He said, well, I'm not home right now. I said, where are you at? He said, I'm in China. It was like he was right next door, so clear. Years ago when we first came about, and I mentioned earlier that I lost my oldest boy, and so I began that journey of mourning for my oldest boy, who for the first time in his life was allowed to leave home. He's a silversmith, 17 years old, and the first time in his life, him and his friend went to Orange County to sell their wares at a fair, and on the way back they started drinking. And 4 miles east of Saunders, Arizona, an 18-wheeler approached, pushed him into the middle, I don't know what they call it, but drove over them in an 18-wheeler. So he fought for his life for 45 minutes and he didn't make it. And so I began that journey. I didn't realize at the time that when that happens, when we lose some of us, for me, you're not the same person. My wife said, you better go home and deal with this. She said, you're scaring the kids. I said, what do you mean scaring the kids? He said, you're not the same person you were. You're getting scared of you. That's anger, frustration. I should have did this. I should have did that. So I began my journey. I went back to McLaughlin. And in that time, that year, so many of my thoughts and things came to be by using tobacco. Every day, making tobacco ties and praying, came to realize, I said, what else can I be doing? And so I started working on thoughts I had, because I used to write everything on napkins, popcorn boxes, things I heard at powwows, I'd write them down. But then I didn't realize at the time how important it is to put diacritics on there. We have people going around saying, Wakan Tanka, Tatanka, a couple of ladies really got upset with me because I did a presentation and they liked to sing hymns. Did she awake, he was dead. Oh, Wakan, oh, Wakan. Did she awake, he was dead. I said, Hechatushni, that's not how we say those words. It's Wakan, Wakanke, has localization. They didn't talk to me for a couple of weeks, and they turned out to be my paras in my classroom. I stepped on feet that time. So, thinking about the ways in which we could incorporate it into our lives, that first step for I and students was to work on your sobriety, to be able to look at yourself and find that balance. And so we began looking at and how we're going to obtain that. So we got together as a class, because when they took me out of morning, they asked me to teach at the college, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to teach. And my president of the college said, teach songs. I said, I never thought of that. And so I began at the college to teach students who have never sang before, been around it, but never sat down at the drum to learn the proper protocol and etiquette of being around a drum. My wife, she said, what do you guys talk about when you're on the drum? I said, you think women can gossip? See, some of these men are really bad. I said, just kidding. So anyway, being able to reach people in the media, I started realizing how important that was. And students to learn, I also realized they need a text, because I can't get to everybody. I've got phone calls and people wanting to know what this means. I said, I can't reach everybody, but that was before what we can do now. I mean, technology-wise, has really progressed. You want to go to the first song? If it wasn't for this guy's help, we would have been kind of a stickler today. When I heard Porcupine and them singing this song, I took it upon myself to find out what they were saying. And so if you notice, I hand printed and put the diacritics on a T, because it is a glotalized. It's tron. And for many of us who understand this, tron is a very important word to us. When I was going to go to school in Wapton Indian School, one of my aunties said, I said, Wapatin, and she kind of smiled and she said, hey, she said, it's Wapton. And I said, then Sisitin was to be Sisitron. So that tron is our origin, our beginning of who we are. Or take that first breath of life and that aura, that spirit, that nari we have, we're born. Tron. Dukteli trompi hai. Wanirta tohani trompi hai. Such an important word to be incorporated into what they interpret as being grandfather. And so when I show the kids and I say, okay, let's work on the pronunciation of Tonkashila Yapi. And if you notice on the S, I put a little V on there. That tells you that's aspirated. Now you use the CH. That comes out of the consortium, out of Indiana. They moved everything from the archives in Washington, D.C. into Indiana. And they can copyright it. They have it legally, the way they're writing the language. So the International Phonetic Association has been around a long, long time. They used to use that to translate Bibles and all over the world. And so we work on the pronunciations that I feel all of them are ready for it. And then we move on to the next word, Tawa-uyeki. And we work on the pronunciation and talk about how do these people accomplish? What do they do in their lives and their deeds that they do, their generosity, their virtues. We talk about all that. And it's a mindset. They get to develop an understanding of what it all means. A lot of us sing the song, but we don't know what it means, and I'm guilty of it too. And so, Tawa-uyeki, and then Nawe-chinji. It's really significant because the J sound, often people say that's a French sound. So now we use a Z with the aspiration marker on it. All right? Very important to pronounce the words correctly. I had a student walked up to me and said, Mr. Bullhead, I have an Indian name. Oh, I said, he said, Mato Hota. I looked at him, I said, Mato Hota? Yeah, he said. I said, you sure it's not Mato Hota? Yeah. Well, Hota means the way I sound right now. And Hota means gray. And the Gladwell's T tells you it's Mato. So Mato Hota was his name given to him. Gray bear. And it's happened to our language many times over. I'm supposed to be Buffalo Head, what they translated out as Bullhead. I've gotten a lot of fights in boarding school over that. Are you really bullheaded? I said, oh man. Sound like that cowardly lion. Put him on. I'll fight you one hand behind my back, you there. And so the continuation of that Nawi-jinji, or Nawi-jinji, is to be aware that there is something that's vitally important that we have to practice, and that is remembering our grandfathers. Many of us have people that have sacrificed their lives for our freedom. And hea kea pelo, that's what is said. Tonkashila Yapi Tawo Oyeki Maka Ihanke Shni. Now oftentimes a lot of singers say Ihanke Shni when it's supposed to say Ihanke Shni. You listen carefully, you'll hear that. Okay, you want to raise it up a little bit? Now, what I incorporated at the time was a way of making sure that what I was doing would reach people that would understand how important it is to read and write. And so, through the deeds of our grandfathers, we'll protect the values and principles that they have told us. Our grandfathers' relatives on this earth will stand forever. I cherish the grandfathers who have gone on before us. Because of these virtues, I humble myself. Our grandfathers' people on this earth will exist and stand forever. And so that is a free translation. That's how I felt about what I learned how to sing. Mr. Isaac Looking Horse. When I first met him, my mom said, I didn't understand what she meant. It was years later that I wanted to learn the Waktigili Longans. And I asked him, approached him, talked to Lala Joe. 4 years later, they said, oh, you will bring your recorder. She said, so you can learn them, so nobody forgets them. So, I don't know if they were spying on me for 4 years or listening to people, but I made it, so they recorded this particular version of the song. And then I learned during Forgotten Days one time that a friend who used to sing with me, Calvin Gaughan, a well-known singer from that area, he told me there was an elderly man that was Ishnalati. So he asked this young man to come and help him through the winter. So the young man went and helped the requester. And after the year and spring came around, the old man said, I have nothing to give you or to. He said, but I do have a song. And so he sang the song for him, the tune. And a lot of you will recognize it. They call it the North Dakota flag song. It was like that. And then the words they put in there. Beautiful song. But that's what he taught me. And so I realize now that when they mentioned that he was the keeper of songs, I was very enlightened to know that I was touched by his presence. Hookah, next one. Now this is cool, this one. You know, there was a time when if you try to practice singing or ceremonies or sweats, whatever you want to do, or having in a spiritual way, you got thrown in jail. There's a song that Gordon Bird wrote and sang called 40 Days. That kind of reminds me of that. I can't wait to get home in 40 days. And people would tell on you too, you know. And so, Ekola piala, emexo yao pielo, hey, emiet kaya. Mata kunishnielo, hey, shumska akayake chi ehina iyayelo. I don't know what that song was about, but I heard it and it was easy for me. And sometimes that's how the Spirit works. I told my aunt, and she was sitting with Morgan, she was sitting with one feather, Philomene one feather, Auntie Maxine, sitting there with, I think it was Sarah Little Spotted Horse, and my aunt, and Jeanette Rigo. Ominicha, those ladies sat and discussed oral history about the Black Hills. I used to drive them down here for the meetings, but holy smokers. She wouldn't let us go more than 45 miles an hour in a brand new car. I'd look over waiting for her. Pretty soon when her lips started moving, I stepped on the gas. She started snoring. She said, so I sang this song to them. I had my eyes closed and I put my heart and soul into the song. We're singing for the grandmas, you know. And it was just quiet. I looked up and they all had their heads down. I didn't speak for a long time. They said, you sang a song of the White Horse Riders. It was a middle society. And so when they lose a member of their Okola Kiche, this is a song they would sing for them. And this song has, tune-wise, has gone all over Canada. For Totten, I've heard it sang for every chief that you can think of. Iron Cloud, Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull, all our grandfathers. It's a very appropriate song to sing. Because remember, if it made, that song didn't make it through, we wouldn't have its history. Hand me a chief again. Head to it. Is this a dream or what? So, when I did that, they all got up and they looked at me and they had watery eyes and they said, "You have brought back memories that we had forgotten about." So that's a powerful, powerful means of communication, is our songs. And I knew then and there that what I was doing, I was on the right path. Hookah. So I put that, I've been married 16 times away. Oh. Now this is very interesting because we hear this song right after the flag song. This song is from the Little Bighorn. And I know a lot of you have heard it, but maybe a lot of you didn't get the history of it. You know? You are not tampe, you are not tampe, you are not tampe, Tunka shilaya pitkawa pacha, you are not tampe lo, la kota okshilaya he tikapcha, you are not tampe, Tunka shilaya Pitkawa pacha, you are not pelo. So you can see how significant diacritics playing it. You hit that, it's not ta, not dan. Right? And then the word, in a particular one, like, oh, hitika cha. You know, you want to make sure that CH sounds in there. Because if not, it becomes like ta, you know. So anyway, I'm not sure a lot of you have heard this song many, many times, but I teach it to the kids so that they, who have never heard it before. Hook the next one. I'm trying to, I don't know how much time is left. They don't make us conscious of songs, but a lot of times these things take a long time. This is a memorial song. We've rendered this song for our veterans many, many times, many, many places. And I also been very surprised to find out that my grandpa, Joe Thunderbear, Ray Thunder in Old Man Sprout Shoot from Bullhead, years ago used to sing the song. And a lot of people say they're the ones that composed the song. Kola wek so ye, kola wek so ye, hey, 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 kola weksu ye, kola iya pelo, hey, hey, makasil komnia, akechita yena, he oakielo, hey. I've heard makasi komni said many different pronunciation when it comes to this section of. But I remember this Hopi prophecy that the world from space was blue. And they never really knew that until a satellite took a picture of the Earth. So this Hopi already knew it in his dream. By looking at the Earth from space, it was blue. And so I decided to use blue. That's my interpretation of that one. And then it's really disheartening to know, you know, like, even by singing these songs, I kept thinking about, right now, one of my friends being laid to rest. Hokia Inaji was his name, Kevin Bach. And so having that responsibility and to be able to share it with people as an enjoyment, as beyond in their imagination. It's a powerful, powerful tool, hookah. Oh, incidentally, here is the first time I've seen my mom donate. The Porcupine Singers sang it in Vermilion in 1979 in honor of my uncle Joe Lewis, who's the original whistle carrier from Standing Rock, and was used as a memorial song, and it came out of Bullhead. As he said that Old Man Straw Shoot and Joe Great Thunder used to use this famous song, and my mom stood up and she said a prayer and she donated to the drum and thanked them for singing that song. It was the last of the original whistle carriers. Now we have whistle carriers all over the place. It's a society thing, you know. And I've bumped heads with my adopted father over whistles. And that eagle bone whistle belongs at the Sundance. You can't be blowing that at a powwow. They're not interrelated only to songs, you know. So, I hope you guys learn that in your life. Next one. Hooga, hooga. I hope no love song appears. I'm not in the mood right now. You know, Mr. One Feather called me and asked me to come down. They're having a Fox Society. And so I started looking through I have the Densmore collection. It was brought to me by Kevin Tokainaji, who gave me a big impact in my life. He said, I know someday you will do something with these songs. And so I owe a great deal to his credit for influencing me. And so I started looking through these cassette tapes. I know a lot of young people probably don't even know what they look like, but they're off the wax cylinders in Washington, D.C. And so I'm looking for a particular song from that Fox-related society I could take and learn and sing for them down there. And as I was listening to this tape, because you have to go through it one by one, and here, when I was 19 years old, I went up to Grand Forks to work in what's called the Summer Institute of Linguistics. And they're Bible Wycliffe translators. I'm sitting in the library, and on the floor, there was a brochure. I picked it up and looked inside there, and it shows these warriors standing alongside a hill, and the words in the tune written down musically. And it says Hantayo on it. I looked at that and I said, that's Lakota, you know, Hantayo. And never gave it much thought after that. And so when I was looking for these other songs, that song started playing. Hantayo yo yo wakai bue hey, Hantayo yo yo wakai bue lo hey. When I learned the song, my feet started going. It's one of the songs that moves your spirit immediately, you know. And so there's something that was imprinted many, many years, but it appeared all of a sudden. This song here was sung for Frances Densmore, where they gave her the name White Buffalo Woman on Standing Rock. But the song was used for my grandpa John Grass, and it's a very powerful song. And when you think about the impact of it, because it's another one of these songs that moved my spirit, I listened to it and immediately didn't know what the words were, but I learned it right away. There was no, I didn't stay up all night practicing, I just picked it up right away. And so I taught it to the singing class at college, and we recorded it. The tape was called Spirit of Song. O ya teke o shimaya ya pichaya hey 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 te cheya o mawani o hey 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 tu ese che con ia kia pero hey hey. Now, Tusweca is adopted, and they usually, when you don't have a Lakota name, they'll use that Tusweca. You know? And I was really, really, how would you say, motivated. I said, I got to look for some more. I got to find some more. So I kept going, and I did find some songs to take down there. Okay, next one. Incidentally, we're not Tetons, we're Tetons. I've been influenced from a lot of people. When I lost my boy, the oldest boy, they used to come over to the house. And one of them was Clifford Monfeather, a singer from Liligo. He'd come over and visit me, talk to me, and tell me a lot of history. Another one was Joe Flying By. He'd come over and talk to me about many things, and I sat and listened. But I was fortunate to understand that when I was young. They said, my nickname used to be Punk Face. Where that came from, I don't know. They said, oh, Punk Face, that'd be my uncle sitting in the park in McLaughlin drinking wine. Huh? I had my letterman's jacket on, captain's bars. Years I lettered, I go and sit with them. And they tell me stories. I listen because they spoke our language. So, I mean, I was happy there. I sat there, I had a good time out. I didn't drink no wine, but I sat there and listened to them. And here that my aunt found out about it, she said, you shouldn't be sitting there down there with those guys. That doesn't look good. It made me feel bad. Those are my dad's friends. She said, she said, it doesn't look good. But I didn't listen to her, I kept doing it. And so they told me many, many stories. Makasit homenia loma wahia. La kolwi choka ki te wachila cha wachi wanielo. It was in my head. I liked the tune, I liked the song. And we're sitting up in United Tribes. I never was into singing contests, but the other boys, they wanted to go for it, but I never was into it. And I'm sitting there, they're all gone. All my singers are on the drum there. Went after pop or eat or something there. They called on us. There was a tie. And one of the dancers was Beverly Larvie. And the song popped up in my head. And I couldn't think of any other song. And so they all pulled in. They hadn't heard it either, because I never sang it before. But it was there. And so I hummed it quick like, and I told them the lead, they seconded me, I carried it, and we sang that song for her for the first time. And man, you talk about the exhilaration to know that, like I said, you got to do the job right, because someday you're not going to be able to sing. Like right now, I don't have the level of singing that I once possessed because of COVID. I know they did something wrong in the operation, and they put a thing down your lungs and control your breathing. So they take it out at the same time they take you off the anesthesia, they call it again. I couldn't speak for 2 weeks, and what a difficult time. A lot of people friends were journeying on to the spirit world, and I couldn't go. I couldn't say my condolences. And for a singer to lose his voice, oh, Jiminy, I didn't think I'd ever be able to do what I'm doing today ever again. Hookah. Or hookah, hey. I was doing a Yapaha for Carolyn Hart up in Billings when she gave up her presidency over there. She was giving away a lot of articles. And every time she gave an article to somebody, they'd say, ah, oh, you know. You probably heard that, right? They all get up and, ah, oh, you know, ah, oh. And Carolyn, she said, I wondered about that word, what that meant. She said, so I asked my mom. Mom, she said, what does that word mean? Ah, oh. She said, it means a woman with an ill repute. Oh, okay. I kind of thought that'd wake you up, huh? All right, one little kid walked up to me, hey, Mr. Bullhead, can we sing that song, Money Up a Do? He said, yeah, I know which one you mean, you know. And so this came off of up a little bit. My memory isn't as sharp as it used to be. Take it up a little bit. Nope, I'm watching out. Let's see. From, yeah, Densmore collection. Okay, back down. Oh, this Kirik's still, all right. So I watched this on TV after the movie's over. So anyway, so it's kind of a foot stomping song, makes you want to dance, you know? Manape, maneapelo, hey, hey, lo, maneapelo. Oh, hiya, maneapelo, okay, maneapelo, hey, oh. Hena, na, manupe, hey, lo, maneapelo, Tusweca, maneapelo, okay, maneapelo. Right on. You know, the little kids like that tune. So whenever it comes to children's category, we crack it out. Hookah. Okay, hey. Now, this brings back a flashback. My missus, who never gave up on me, sent me to treatment 4 times. First I went to one that spoke nothing but English. Second one I went to showed me a lot of things that were culturally. Third one, I didn't even listen to. But the fourth one, I started listening to. His name was Gene Thin Elk. I was at Sergeant's Bluff, Iowa. And I stepped on from there to call walking the Red Road. And I've been on it ever since. Tough road. Very difficult. You wake up every day with decisions to be made, but you try to make it positive. And so, when we formed a circle and we shared our experiences, there's a young man sitting by me who reminded me of my younger brother, who either fell out of the balcony window, either was pushed out, or there was a fight, and he fell to the pavement, and we lost him. And so I was dealing with a lot, but this young man reminded me just like him, so I adopted him at that program as my little brother. And I found out that he was from Kennel, South Dakota. He'd been adopted out and in jail for many of his years, but he was buff, man. He looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I said, how are you able to wipe yourself when you go to the bathroom at 5? Anyway, he started sharing his feelings of what he went through. And he went through a lot. The abuse, physical, mental, sexually, and being a young boy out in a world that wasn't meant for him, but he was there. And so as he spoke, there was a feeling in my stomach I couldn't hold down. It started rising up my esophagus, and I was trying very, very hard not to let it erupt because I knew what it was. But he kept talking, and it got up to my throat, and I'm ready to burst. I looked over, and Eugene, he showed me his lips, and he said, that's how we talk, and you. So I followed him to his office. He put a trash can in front of me, a box of Kleenex, and he said, "What chikakaga?" I looked at him and I said, "What chikakaga?" He said, "Let it out," he said. "Pray," he said. "You need to pray." What chika? I looked at him and I went through the emotions, and man, I busted out and I started crying. Because I missed my little brother so much. It took me a long time to gather my emotions back, but I felt so good about it because I was raised to be a cowboy. Nilakota Cheshnio. Didn't realize that was just the beginning. So I went back to where we stayed, and there were bunk beds in there, and all by myself. Reminded me of being in boarding school. And so, Wo Chikya, I started saying these words in the prayer. And then I started singing it. This is the first song I've ever composed. And it came to me in a way that I had never dreamed possible. Wacheng sabia unipina io tie unkumpiero tonkashila ahitoa na unshiunapo. And I shared that with our group. I told them my experience, what just happened, and I call it the sobriety song. So one of my kolas, you've been keeping track of time, Michelle. Are we good? Oh yeah, we got time. Hold on. You know, my relatives up there in Fort Totten, I used to sweat a lot with, and they're all gone now. I was asked to compose a song for my aunt, who was one of the founders of the college on Standing Rock. And she used to always say, when things are negative, make it positive. And so with those in mind, I started thinking about the words she used to say. And so this became a song for her, and I call it the Positive Thinking Song. Oyate washte walake le mielo doha ochanku awamani cha washte ibruk chayelo oyate washte walaki le mielo. So that spirit never leaves. I can see her. She was strict. She was a woman's Army Corps, right? Front and center, boys. That we all line up. Agalokawi was her Indian name. She said, La Kota Chajelo Hasyone. You need to have all your kids get names. Okay. I hope I'm not going through this too fast. There's so much attached to all of this. You know, I've often wondered about these grass dancers. It was all fancy dancers. The arena used to be full of fancy dancers. And that came out of Oklahoma. And every once in a while you see somebody with the old outfits. And a lot of people say Omaha, some say Omaha. All right? And so I said, what do you think about that, buddy? He said, it looks like they're all broken up. We kind of all laughed. But that stayed in my mind. You know, because there was suddenly each power, more and more grass dancers came out on the floor. And so I started thinking about that. And so I said, I'll try one. And so it became this one. I don't want Tiospaye, hey, 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 hey. Omaha, Tusweca, Shaki, Daya, Wachi, Niam, Pelo, hey, I don't want Kabarabarecha, Wachi, Pero, hey. Every little singer that comes to sing with me, they said, when are you going to sing that? I hate to want po. So it influences our young minds. The tune, the rhythm plays a very important integral part of their learning. Hookah or hooga hey. You know, this particular song I used to sing with Gary Holybull, John Eagle and Sisseton years ago. And I said, how come there's not a song for the people that spend all the time sewing, beading, getting their outfits ready for their grandkids or their kids? How come nobody ever recognizes them? And he said, well, gee, I've never thought of that. And he said, well, he said, he said, make one. So I said, I'll give it a try. So that became the song. What do they call it? A brain freeze or a little freeze? Ewachipo Nija wachi ani peyelo oyate bleche yapo oelo hereya ewachipo Nija wachi ani peyelo eyere tokashne Nija wachi ani peyelo eyere. So we sang it at several powwows and people and parents came out and danced. That's unique to be able to see your work and people utilizing it and sharing it. It's awesome. Hookah, hona. I see other people lining up. This particular song is one that was adopted in Washington, D.C. when they had treaty meetings over there and they adopted a flag song. And different versions to this is that who composed it? Chip the Red Cloud. Heard other people say this guy, that guy. Well, I just accepted it because it's a beautiful song. We sing it all the time. And a lot of you know it. Hookah. Here we go. I don't know what it is, but these old guys sure like this song. And I hope I don't make anybody jealous. Don't be arguing when you go home. Di re Tawi chua towe ohenia waste chila kewa he he uheta ahanisha ukoshni. Oh, let me get happy about it, too. Yeah. Recognizing their first love, you know? We all go through that. Hookah. Oh, we pray that sharing our culture will bring about a positive change in our lives and the future of our children. Grandfather, you give us thanks for all you have given us. Oh, mitaki wase, etchiklam luhailo.